Hello guys, I'm Dr. Doodoo, back with another video. We're doing biology. We're going to be doing some key facts about homeostasis, some B10 and a little bit of B11. So, just to recap, homeostasis is the regulation of internal conditions in response to an external stimuli to maintain optimum enzyme function. This definition, you should just memorize it off by heart. You should just have it in your back pocket, ready to go whenever you get a one marker that's saying, oh, define homeostasis, which they happen all the time, right? So homeostasis is the regulation of internal conditions in response to an internal/external stimuli to maintain optimum conditions for enzyme function. Okay, so the conditions that homeostasis controls are body temperature, so how hot or how cold you are, water levels, so how much water is inside of you. So for example, that it basically controls like your kidneys and how much water you're absorbing, how much you're discarding for waste, right? And then also blood glucose levels, right? So how much glucose is in your blood, basically. Now, basically all of your endocrine system and your nervous system has these three basic components, right? So you have your receptors, which detect change. They are in the nervous system and in the endocrine system. So for example, those are your fingers and your eyes. They detect external stimuli and the stuff that's around you, basically. Can also be like your ears and also your thermoregulatory system that controls your temperature from a different video. The next vital component of these systems is a coordination center. So these receive and process information from the receptors, from your eyes and from your fingers, right? So this is like your brain and your spinal cord, right? So it's your brain and your nervous system, and for reflexes, it's your spinal cord, right? The next major components are effectors. So effectors are basically muscles and glands, and these are actually in charge of responding to the stimuli, right? They respond to the stimuli. So now we're going to be going a bit more in depth about the nervous system, right? Basically, the nervous system is made up of electrical impulses and nerves. So here we have a little diagram on how you get some electrical impulses, or how you basically process information, right? So it starts with your receptors. The receptor detects a change in your stimulus, which is a change in your environment, and it sends the electrical impulse to your sensory neuron. Neuron is just the singular word for a nerve, right? So it's just a neuron, that's what we call it. So from your sensory neuron, it goes to either your brain or your spinal cord, which are your coordination centers, right? Your brain and your spinal cord. After that, it goes to your motor neuron, and then it goes to your effector. So, for example, if you saw an apple, so this is a classic 6 marker, if you saw an apple and wanted to pick it up, describe the systems that you would use to do that, right? So you see the apple, so your eyes are the receptors, they detect the apple, and they send this information via electrical impulse through the sensory neuron to the brain, and the brain receives and processes the information from the receptors, and the brain, it turns the electrical impulse, it turns it to the motor neuron. The motor neuron continues the electrical impulse to the effector, and they basically respond to the stimuli. So in this case, with our apple, it would be to pick up the apple and take a bite, right? So that's the example of that. Another nervous system function are reflexes. Now reflexes are in us designed to keep us from harm, right? So for example, if you're touching a hot pan and your finger detects the hotness, and this is your receptors in this case, and it turns it to the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron, instead of going to the brain for most of your conscious decision making, it goes to your spinal cord, right? So it goes to your spinal cord right here, and then from your sensory neuron into your spinal cord, but then there's a little gap between your sensory neuron and your relay neuron, which is called a synapse. I have a little diagram right here. So this is your sensory neuron and this is your relay neuron. The electrical impulse comes in from your finger through your sensory neuron, and the synapse in between those is still electrical impulse here, and here, right here, it is a hormone. It gets turned into a chemical because there are these gaps between your nerves which the electrical impulse cannot travel to. So it gets converted into chemicals. Now these chemicals, they traverse the gap, they diffuse across, and then they are detected by the relay neuron, which is on the other side of the gap. And it is converted back into a new electrical impulse to then continue through the path, right? So there's a synapse between your sensory neuron and your relay neuron, and there's also a synapse between your relay neuron and your motor neuron, right? So after your relay neuron, the synapse, and then the motor neuron, and then the effector. The effector, it carries out the response to the stimulus, right? So now we'll be moving on to the endocrine system. The endocrine system. This is made up of mostly hormones and glands. So here I have a small diagram of all the glands in your body. So you have the pituitary gland, which is basically the master gland. It controls growth in children. It stimulates the thyroid gland to make thyroxine to control the rate of metabolism. In women, it stimulates the ovaries to produce and release eggs and make the female sex hormone estrogen. In men, it stimulates the testes right down here to make sperm and the male sex hormone testosterone, right? Now, the thyroid, it's not on my diagram, but it should be right there in your throat. The thyroid, it controls the metabolic rate in your body, basically. Now, moving down, the pancreas controls the level of glucose in the blood, like we were saying up here, through homeostasis, the things that are controlled by these glands. Now, the adrenal gland, which is this one, these little two things right here, they prepare the body for stressful situations. So it's your fight or flight response. So if you see like a rabid dog and you're running from it, basically. Now, down here you have the ovaries, which control the development of the female secondary sexual characteristics and are involved in the menstrual cycle, right here. And then you have your testes, which control the development of male secondary sexual characteristics and are involved in the production of sperm. Yeah, basically, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Please tune in to another video. It really helps the channel. Have a lovely day, guys.